Hey guys, so this is What If Deku Was a Speedster Part 3, guys. Now, this has been long overdue. Now, in this What If, basically, I'm going to be doing Part 3, and I'm going to be doing Part 3, yeah. This is going to be Part 3. But after this video, I'm immediately going to start recording Part 4, and that's going to be the Flashpoint episode. Basically about how Deku would mess up the timeline. Wait, you know what? Forget it. This is the Flashpoint episode. Originally, I was going to make the Flashpoint episode or Deku starring Flashpoint, the finale for this What If. But forget it. It was a bigger event in Flash, or it's been other big events in Flash's history. But basically, Flashpoint will come in fruition. But for now, Deku will just go back in time and basically Thong will try to, do his plan, follow Deku through the Speed Force after he after he activates the Speed Force and goes into it, and all that other stuff. Now, basically, let's just get into it because I might do Flashpoint later on in the episode, or later on in the part or the video, or I might just do it in part 4. But part 3 or 4, I'm probably going to do the Flashpoint episode. Now, basically, let's get into it, guys. We start our story off with Izuku Midoriya. Last time we left off, Zuko was knocked out or tripped under a rock on Dagio Beach since he was chasing after Thong in his vigilante outfit. Now basically, we switch to the next day and Deku wakes up, basically riding back home because he's still in his vigilante outfit or still in his clothes. Basically, running home, getting dressed in his UA outfit and running back to school, passing by a lot of pro heroes, them not even recognizing Deku even uses quirk or passed by them. Now Deku gets to Class 1A, and basically we see the class or the day go somewhere as planned. Nothing really changes that much until they get ready for the USJ. And as they get to their USJ, they start talking about who's the strongest in the class. Everybody's saying it's Bakugo. No, it's Todoroki, and everybody's saying no, it's Deku. And pretty much Ida kind of scoffing, or Ida, not scoffing, but noticing that Deku is the fastest and probably has the most potential out of all of them. Now, we see Deku just staring off in the window since he's not really listening. He's just thinking about why Thong wanted him. Why Thong keeps on making him chase him. Because the way Thong runs, how fast he moves, Deku can realize that Thong is way more experienced and faster than him. But he still tries to push Deku to his limits. But Deku can't put his finger on it. Now Deku gets snapped out of his daydream when pretty much Ochaku asks what's wrong. And Deku says there's nothing and basically gets switched or the bus gets stopped when they get to the USJ. They get into the USJ and you basically see, well, pretty much the class starts, do their thing. 13, introducing herself and saying about, saying the same speech about quirks and everything. Now we see pretty much the League of Villains still show up. They still get teleported to the same areas. And as Deku's falling through the portal to get to the water area, he starts to build up speed as he's running, or he's just running on air. And pretty much electricity starts to build up on pretty much Deku's feet since he's in his hero costume. We basically see Deku, speed up in his, Kid Flash inspired suit or his, speedster suit or his hero costume. Just if you haven't seen part 1 or 2, go watch it after this video or right now. But yeah, we see Deku pretty much run a build up speed, running down the water, basically running on water. Him being, kind of surprised they can do this. Now he tries to turn or stop and turn, but when he stops, he just goes to the water. Now the villain started to come towards him, but he gets grabbed out of the water by Suyu. Now as they get on the boat, basically they try to make a plan. And Deku says I got a plan already, as pretty much Mineta and pretty much Froppy get grabbed out of nowhere, and Deku just leaps off the boat, basically blew it up enough speed with the push he did off the boat. Basically him running on the water and him pretty much slowing down halfway and then pretty much tripping and falling about a foot away from pretty much the beach area or shore. Basically them swimming as fast as they can. Deku using speed in his arms and his legs to pretty much super low speed, pretty much a swim like he did with One For All in the swim episode, or the swim part of the episode. Basically, him grabbing both of them and swimming them to the other side. Basically, Deku running around trying to save or take down as much villains as possible. As he's doing this, kicking down villains, he sees the Nomu and All Might arrive. Basically, him seeing before that, him seeing Azawa getting his literal like braids bashed out. Now Azawa doesn't die, but still he gets beaten up the same way as original. We see All Might show up, and All Might starts to straight up just start to fold everybody, or tries to take down the Nomu. As this is happening, the Nomu is going over and over, trying to take down All Might. And as this is happening, All Might is kind of losing. Basically, we see Deku running or coming clutch. Basically, him running and speed blitzing the Nomu left and right. Him running all around it. As he does this, we see that Deku gets grabbed in the foot as he's running around trying to stop the Nomu, and he gets thrown back into the water. As he's getting thrown back in the water, Suyu grabs him before he can get into the water, and he gets pulled back to shore. Now, as he does this, he runs back into the situation, not really learning anything from before. Him grabbing a middle rusty bar and stabbing it Zoom style into pretty much the Nomu's leg, kind of like how Zoom did to Flash in Flashpoint movie. Basically, pretty much Deku is about to get punched by the Nomu because the Nomu's angry at him, but Deku dodges out the way and basically runs off, building up enough speed, running out of the building and running right back in, building up enough speed to do a super punch. He does a super punch, punching Nomu down to the ground. As he does this, he remembers like he could just run out he literally just left the USJ. So he runs right back out of the USJ and basically getting to the heroes, telling them about the situation. Now, a couple minutes later, the heroes show up, basically them going on or pretty much going against Shigaraki and Tokiyami. And basically, as you see this, Tokiyami pretty much acts and pretty much Toyami. Basically, he acts on this, and pretty much we see that they get saved nonetheless, and basically they get grabbed, and pretty much Shigaraki still gets shot the same way. And pretty much before Shigaraki gets teleported, Deku tries to follow them, but as he tries to follow them, and he's like inches away from just grabbing Shigaraki before he can get taken. And basically, we see out of nowhere a bright red streak of lightning pushes Deku away from Shigaraki, pushing him into the ground. Deku starts to look around, him hearing noises and seeing Zoom on the opening of the door, him smirking at Deku and running off. Deku runs off, and pretty much we see that All Might for some reason recognizes Thong or Zoom, basically telling Deku to stop. But Deku doesn't listen. Deku's too filled with rage and vengeance to even stop, and he wants to kill Thong. He follows Thong, basically going through the city left and right, running up buildings, running through buildings. He doesn't know how to phase completely yet, but Deku runs through buildings, as in jumping through the windows and going through the back doors, stuff like that. Basically, them running around the whole city in a matter of minutes, basically covering every inch of Japan. Basically, they start to run around, pretty much Thong trying to make Deku build up enough speed as possible. And Deku doesn't even care what Thong's even planning. He's running at Thong at full speed. It's so much pain in Deku's legs because Deku isn't used to using his speed on such a fast pace. Deku is pushing his legs to the very limit. His suit's starting to get weared out a little bit as well. Basically, him running as fast as possible. Pretty much little craters as big as footballs start to pretty much cradle underneath Deku's feet. Him following Zoom faster and faster. Zoom getting kind of worried because he didn't think Deku would build up this much speed in a matter of 10 minutes. And basically, them running faster and faster. The faster they run, the more destructive Deku's steps become, basically making huge craters underneath his feet. Deku starts to run faster and faster and builds up builds up Speed Force electricity that works or acts unpredictably, shooting electricity throughout the whole city, taking out cars, electric poles, and even buildings. Basically, him following Thong, and as he's a foot away from Thong, he jumps for it, grabbing Thong in the back. Thong vibrates through Deku's hands, and Deku speeds up even more. We're right next to Thong at this point. And Deku tries to tackle down Thong, but Thong pushes his speed faster, pretty much making Deku run faster and faster. And as Thong sees his electricity building more up, and a little strand of pretty much the Speed Force starts to open up for Deku. He sees that Deku's opening up the Speed Force. As Deku's running and running and running, he opens up the Speed Force, and nothing's in Deku's way. And Deku is entered into the Speed Force. We see the Speed Force open, Deku running and running, basically seeing electricity and pretty much multiple different colors of lightning, everything flashing all around him. Him seeing glimpses of his memories, past, present, and future. Basically, him running as fast as possible. The future memories that he sees are kind of blurred since he doesn't have that speed to go to the future yet. But basically, he's running and running and running, and as he runs, he sees a glimpse of his mother, the life he had before his mother died from Thong. Basically, him running faster. Deku runs faster, thinking about that moment self-consciously. Basically, appearing the moment his mother died. As Deku starts to hear ringing in his ear, we see that Thong pretty much was in the Speed Force with Deku, but wasn't fast enough to catch up with him and was left behind in the past. Now, basically, as we see Thong, look at this, he smirks, basically saying my plan is coming to fruition. Basically, Thong, or we think is Thong in present, is Thong's speed duplicate or doppelganger. Basically, us seeing that the real Thong is running slowly after Deku, following him. Now, basically, we see Deku arrive at the front door of his house and opens it, basically seeing his mother there. He embraces his mother, and he hears, running. Basically, him looking out the window, seeing that Thong, or red and green lightning, or red and yellow lightning, red and yellow lightning are coming towards Deku's house. As Deku sees this, he remembers this is the moment when his mother died, how Thong catch up to his mother before Deku could. Deku grabs his mother and runs her out the house, basically changing a complete events in the story, changing everything from that point on. Now, as Deku does this, for some reason, he's pulled back into the Speed Force, and Deku wakes up, basically running out of the Speed Force and pretty much finding himself in the middle of Japan. Now, as Deku sees this, we see All Might tracks down Deku, saying what happened, basically saying where did Zoom go? And basically, Deku saying, I don't know. Now, All Might doesn't know Zoom that much, but he has heard about a yellow-suited man that everyone talked about. And basically, we see pretty much, Thong on a rooftop saying, time is about to change. And everything starts to glitch around Deku. And Deku starts to see that time starts to change everywhere. And things start to not look like how they're supposed to be. Basically, we see Deku look around. Basically, us seeing that, Deku starts to look around and sees that everything's starting to change. Buildings are supposed to be places they weren't supposed to be. And as he looks in front of All Might, he sees All Might in a weirder, more darker, menacing suit. A black version of his All Might suit, a black and red version. Basically, All Might having black hair instead of blonde hair. Him becoming more of a dictator, more of a, let's just say, kind of a Russian Superman type of fanatic. Basically, he looks at Deku and says, "Get back to UA now, boy." And basically, Deku being afraid and confused. He runs back to UA and sees that it's completely different. That everything's weirder. Now, as Deku looks around, he goes to the library. He said every slight detail is completely different. Him being completely confused on why this is. Now, Deku hears Thong in the background. Thong looking at him saying, let's see. Basically him running out of the building, basically Deku following after him. Now, as you see Deku following after Thong, basically you see that Deku starts to run after Thong faster and faster and faster. Eventually, as Thong is running, he stops, drop kicking Deku in the face as Deku is still running. Now, Deku falls down to the ground because of, the huge momentum that was just stopped on Deku. Deku gets back up and looks at Thong saying, what happened? What did you do? And basically Thong saying, I didn't do anything. You saving your mother made a lot of things different. Things that shouldn't even be different, but they are. A butterfly effect happened. At that point, when you saved your mother, that guilt, that pain, that was supposed to save you. That was supposed to bring you closer to being a hero. I have a vendetta against me, sure, but still, it made a big turning point to you being a hero. You aren't just in your way. You are 20 years in the future. And basically, Deku looking around and noticing for the first time mountains, pictures, and even more memorials for, well, Flash, the pro hero Deku would become. The deck is confused, and Zoom starts to menacingly explain that in the future, Deku becomes a great hero, the Flash, the fastest man to ever exist. And basically, him going up against multiple villains like me as such. Basically, Zoom saying that my plan was to break you. My past self broke you, and that led to you becoming the Flash. I came back to the past, possessing or sharing the same body as my past self. Basically, Thong going on about how my plan was to make you save your mother. So in the future, you don't have that turning point in your life. You don't have that vigilante drive, that will in your life to become a hero, making you so much filled with money, so much, well, love made you weak. It didn't make you feel any sorrow. You weren't able to connect to people that lost somebody. You had everything. You had an amazing power. You had your mother and your father. You had everything in the past. In the past, you didn't have everything. You had your mother die, but that changed you. That gave you a turning point in your life to become the best hero. But when you stopped all of that, when you stopped your mother from being killed, it changed the future astronomically. You weren't as developed as you were, meaning that in the last battle of Overhaul, you died. You were killed, and the world mourned you. Since at that point, you were a really good hero. And basically, him going on about how All Might changed after that, after he saw his own student, one that he admired, one that he actually cared about, died because of him. And truly it was because of him, because he was too slow to stop you from going in head first, and you killed yourself because you were too cocky. And basically, Thong going on and on about how your death changed everything. All Might changed, Zawa changed, Yue changed. You were the biggest hero, the biggest student in Yue. Everybody loved you. You were sensational hits, if you can say so. And basically, pretty much Thong going on about how it wasn't, and pretty much he's not talking about the overall fight. He's talking about pretty much in the future, in this universe's future, Overhaul's arms aren't taken away from Shigaraki, and Overhaul escapes. Basically, him doing a huge like Infinity War level fight or war. Basically, Deku getting caught in the crossfire, and at that point, Deku was a pro hero. So basically, yeah, a lot of things changed. And Deku was, well, the number one pro hero actually. All in this universe, All Might, let's just say, in this universe, let's just say Eerie reversed All Might to his prime self when he had more, shards of, or more, more ashes of One for All still in his body. So he was able to go back to his prime hero business and became like a senior, or like a halftime pro hero. And basically, we see that, well, the future completely changes. Heroes retire, heroes become a little bit more darker, and hero society changes to, well, arresting villains to straight up just killing all of them if they even become villains. And basically, the world goes into ruins, and Japan becomes more of a dark zone for villains. Crime goes down completely, but it's more, well, let's say more Gotham-like in Japan now. Now, basically, Deku looks around, and here's a war about America and Japan. Basically, something about how quirks were becoming too powerful, and they were using the wrong method of taking down villains in their country. Now, basically, we see that Deku is forced to stay back because in that whole entire, talk, Thong did kind of capture Deku and did tie him up, basically making Deku watch the war and watching all of his loved ones in the future die in the war. Heroes being killed by American heroes. All sorts of stuff starting to go down in shame. And Japan falling. Basically, Deku watching all this. And Thong saying, "This is all you. And now my plan is complete. It's only one more thing I have to do." Basically, Deku looks at Thong and says, "We haven't changed anything." Basically, Thong's confused. And Thong says, "Oh, yes. Oh, that fateful day you were struck by lightning. That was the point in your life where this all happened." Deku thinks about going back to that time and stopping himself from being hit by lightning, but that would make future Deku a thought, a glimpse, a past memory, nothing more but just an erased version of history or the universe. Now, Deku would think about it more and more, but would have seen all of his family members, all of his loved ones, be murdered. And it was all because he got this stupid power. All because he was tricked by Zoom. All because he was too cocky and arrogant to see through his ways of Zoom just tricking him. Deku saw this, and he used the last bit of his strength since he was kind of tuckered out by going through the whole Speed Force and stopping a whole event through his life. Basically, he phased through the shackles that Thong had him through, and he grabbed Thong, basically throwing him against the wall, breaking Thong's back. Because Deku threw he threw him so hard. I mean, like Superman hard. I mean, like he used a lot of speed and a lot of short amount of time to use a lot of kinetic force to basically push his hands into pretty much, Thong pushing him backwards. And since Deku has like the same potential as Wally West in the comics, he's a little bit more, faster. Now Deku runs off, going back in time, and as his future self runs back in time, and is about to open the door to his mother before she died, about to stop him. He runs back in time, grabbing his past self, or his past self, grabbing him and throwing him back into his timeline. Him running back into his timeline and letting the original timeline play out, letting himself see his mother die all over again. And as we see this, we see pretty much Thong in the past timeline basically look around and he runs right back out of that timeline. Basically, he runs out of that timeline as the timeline starts to collapse since, it's been completely, erased from existence. Basically, we see that Deku, goes back to home, pretty much walking into the house and sitting down. Him thinking about everything. Now, basically, guys, this isn't the Flashpoint episode. The Flashpoint episode is going to be a little bit different, and actually is going to be a little bit more complex and have a lot more changes within it, and it's going to be changing at a different point in time on how Deku would change history itself. Now, basically, that was like a similarity to Flashpoint, but basically, for Deku to become the Flash, basically, for Flashpoint to happen, it would happen in part 4 after Thong, makes a new plan to make Deku create Flashpoint, because in this plan was actually Thong's plan the whole time. Thong's plan was to let Deku escape and undo this, making Deku realize that he was being tricked the first time. And as Deku becomes a little bit more hesitant as he goes after Thong would go after more of his family members. His uncle, his other family members, and also maybe even Deku's, secret brother. Now basically, not secret brother, I mean Deku's father, and go after him as well. I don't remember if I killed his father off, but if I did, he's alive. No, basically, we see that, Thong will go after other family members of Deku, making him taunt and making him feel more vengeful towards, Zoom. Zoom making Deku as arrogant as he was before, and making Deku go after him as canon later on in the future. Thong, trying to make Deku recreate his plan for him to, become the newest, fastest man alive, become well, or take Deku's speed away from him. Now, basically, for the rest of the series, it's basically just going to be a back and forth between Thong or Zoom trying to agnetize pretty much Wally, or I mean, Deku. Now basically in the future, about part 6, 5, basically Thong will be out of the picture. He'll be dead, and I'll be introducing Zoom. Zoom as in the Dark Flash, those Flash that's obsessed with taking speed away from people. Or guys, I can bring in Savitar for the next villain after Reverse Flash. So who do you guys think? Should I bring in which main spaceship villain should I bring in after I kill off or I get rid of Zoom for part 4 or 5? So that's gonna be the finale for Zoom being the main villain for Deku for this time. Now you guys can decide. Should I do Savitar for the next villain for part 6 and 7 or Savitar? But at the end of the series, Savitar is definitely going to be in the series, and Savitar is going to be the big finale fight, so I may do a different Flash villain, maybe Johnny Quick, I don't know, or somebody else as a main Flash villain for the next, stage of Deku's development throughout this series, because I'm going to be a lot more, darker and grittier with this What If. Now, I think I was gritty with the Robin What If, but basically, guys, I am also going to be doing what if Deku was his own Robin or was a Robin. Not, Jason Todd Robin, not Red Hood. I mean his own individual, his own Robin. As in, if Deku, Izuku Midoriya, was given the title as Robin, what would he do with it? How would he change the title of Robin? How would he make it his own? So, yeah. So, basically, I'm going to leave it off here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And if you guys like the more grittier and more, emotional take I take on this What If, just say so in the comments. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later.